Another of my live videos, just sharing some thoughts around my own journey into learning more about the Regency period, late Georgian and Regency Britain, and indeed further afield. And today I'm going to talk about Regency farmhouses. Now let me explain that. I've just uploaded a video actually onto the channel about Lights Carey. Lights Carey, slightly odd name perhaps, but it's a house. It's a grand house in Somerset. We visited there just a couple of weeks ago. And Lights Carey is an example of a manor house that was built before the Regency, before Georgian times even. It was a Tudor manor house, had its roots back in medieval times. And the family that owned Lights Carey lived there for generations and built it up into a substantial place. And there's another house very similar to Lights Carey, not far from us here in Dorset, called Athelhampton House. And Athelhampton and Lights Carey are very similar in that they're both these grand Tudor mansions. But in both cases, the owners were not able to maintain them, and in the case of Lights Carey, they sold it. In about 1750, the owners of Lights Carey, the Light family, sold the house and it became a farm, basically. The people who took it on, they wanted the land, they didn't particularly want the buildings, so they started farming the land and they allowed the buildings to fall into disrepair. They started using the buildings as agricultural buildings. And so Lights Carey is a classic example of a Tudor mansion that by the time of the Regency was in considerable disrepair, was being lived in parts by animals. There may well have been farming folks who lived there as well in some of the ranges of buildings, but the place was basically a mess. And this is interesting because it's potentially a story idea, or it could be used as a plot feature in a story. One of the other reasons why Rachel and I run Regency History is not just because we love researching history and sharing about it, but we also want to support and encourage people who write about history, and particularly who write historical fiction. Rachel writes Regency romances. And Regency romances themselves are on a broad scale of one end being very historically accurate and the other end being completely effectively fantasy. So I always get distracted when somebody gives me a thumbs up. Thank you. So that's what we want to do. We want to help people who are wanting to write or who are writing historical novels. So in the case, as I said, of Rachel, she's writing Regency romances. And so we help people by giving them more information about history. That's what we do through the Regency History channel. And also we want to encourage writers by sharing our thoughts around writing itself. And we'll do more videos about writing in the future. And also publishing, self-publishing. We are self-publishing ourselves. I got a couple of folks saying hi, so thank you. Hello to you. Whereabouts you from? It'd be great to know. Feel free to leave in the comments. And so we want to help writers. So that's why we share information on the Regency History channel. And this thing about the farmhouses, going back to that, is that there are these buildings, there are these old houses, grand old houses in England, which by the time of the Regency, by the time of Jane Austen, they were not being used as grand houses. They were effectively being used as farmyards. And there's a couple of those, as I said, a couple of those quite near to where we are in Dorset. And Lights Carey is one of them. And I said, I've just put the video on YouTube from our tour around Lights Carey. Oh, someone's from Sardinia. I'm a published author. Oh, great. That's excellent. Thank you for taking a moment to watch. Do me a favour, old boy, says somebody. Can I have a shout out, says somebody else. Lend me 100 grand, someone's asking. Well, 100 grand of what? Because if it's cash, I haven't got any. Anyway, so I'm relatively new to doing these YouTube lives, by the way. So it's an interesting experience. It's great that there's a number of you commenting today. Something that I'll have to learn how to deal with comments as we go through and how you manage those. So these are very early days, as ever, for these lives. Anyway, where was I? I was talking about these grand farmhouses. So they are. So the places like Athelhampton, as I said, Lights Carey, who are these big old houses that were the families that built them could no longer afford to maintain them. They were sold off to owners who then basically typically put tenant farmers in there. So the tenant farmer didn't own the building, the tenant farmer was using the building. But it meant that in places like the Great Hall, there's a great hall at Lights Carey, there's a great hall at Athelhampton, the medieval style old halls, they were being used as farmyards. The one at Athelhampton, had pigs running around in it. The one at Lights Carey had a big cider press in it. So, there's, I'm getting lots of distracting comments. Can I buy me a pig? Yeah, or a horse. There's a whole variety of things. And your surname matches someone in my family. So are you someone I know? There's a question. Anyway, that's today's thought. I'm doing these videos every day. They're a bit experimental. It's just my thought around writing, my thoughts around learning more about Regency history, and that's where I've got to. So thank you very much for taking part in today's video. If you're watching this recording afterwards, thank you. It'd be great, again, just to leave a comment. Let me know what you think. I'm experimenting with formats. So currently I've gone to vertical format rather than horizontal format. I know the background's not great. I need to work on that. If I actually get a Regency outfit, maybe I'll do these videos in a Regency outfit rather than in my rather old t-shirts. But it's actually really hot here in the UK. I mean, it's cooler than it was yesterday, but it's still very, very hot. Anyway, thank you for watching, and have a great rest of the day wherever you are.